Man, these days suck. It almost reminds me of being guide camp here. This little cabin. Dead quiet outside, the rain, sleet, the nastiness. We get days like this. I go out. I'll go no matter what. I don't care what it's doing. We're going. You're up here. You paid to come up and go in the mountains, go hunting, and we're going. It was funny how many of the hunters would be like, can we just have a camp day today? Like, sure, man, whatever you want to do. But it can get pretty, it's pretty boring in a cabin in the middle of nowhere, I'll tell you what, all day long. It's not much to do but read or sleep, right? But anyway, let me get a couple more added on here. Well, the batteries on the other camera are charging. Please excuse the spelling and grammar. I'm going slow, LOL. My name is Brian. Okay, Brian, let her rep. Me and my best friend and his little bro were out coon hunting. About 17 years old. Hard hat light and wired battery pack. I spoke to only a couple people on this. I don't think Sean and Rooster... Okay, I don't think Sean and Rooster has told anyone. We had been out around 2 hours. Had a blue tick hound with us. We were making tracks up the foot of Mount Nebo in Dardanelle, Arkansas. We were laughing and joking, and the blue tick just stopped, hair raised. Then it was gone, and I mean in a second. The feel of fear came over us. The hair on my neck stood up, then a long howl. I've heard bobcats, cougars, yep, we got them, and wild dogs, and this was nothing we heard before. We spent our lives in the woods. This howl sounded kind of human, but not. We glanced at each other and took off running. After about 8 steps, I heard a voice in my head. It said, I've seen you all many times. We run and run. Finally, his grandpa's house, etc. Their dog is laying, okay, so their dog is laying on the porch asleep when they walked in. That's the end of the story. Okay, Brian. Short, sweet, to the point. Gotcha. Let's go back to where that was again. Dardanelle, Arkansas. Okay, Brian, you know what? For you bravely coming forward with what you heard and felt, and obviously you sought this place out, you know what it was. But maybe, hopefully, possibly, somebody from that same neighborhood will chime in the comment section below, or you'd be knee-jerked to email us more about what possibly gone on around there to them too, alright? Welcome to the club of no return. Man, it's cold out here. Colder than where I've been at home for the past while. Alright, let's get this one more added on here, and then I'm going to go do something else. Sabe, question mark. Hi, Steve. My name is Neil Clausen. Feel free to use my name. First saw your hunting stories when they came up on my YouTube feed about 1.5 years ago. Right away I could see you're a hell of a storyteller, and I was hooked. When your videos then changed topic to Sabe encounters, I kept watching, and I haven't missed one since. For me, it's quite shocking, in a good way, to see you speaking of this topic in your sincere, no-nonsense way. I really appreciate and look forward to each video. Right on, man. Thanks for the kind words. Support. I don't have an encounter experience of my own to share, but listening to you has brought a memory back to me and made me wonder if I had missed out on an opportunity to gain some knowledge. This is about 5 or 6 years ago. My wife and I had been invited by another couple to come spend the weekend at their parents' cabin, let's call the parents Rob and Simone, in Tulameen, BC. I'm not sure if you've ever been there, Steve, but we took what seemed to be a back road to get there, off of the 97C. A windy gravel road. It seemed like we were driving through a fairy tale forest. We followed our friends down this road, and for some reason they were driving extremely fast. At the time I thought maybe they were just in a hurry to get the weekend started, and now I've started to wonder if they just wanted to get through this stretch of forest quickly. Anyways, we got there with that incident and popped the top off of a cold one. Rob took us guys in a quad ride that day up the switchbacks into the hills above the town. After about an hour or so of riding, we got to a clearing and a small lake and stopped for a drink. At that time, I had a sudden urge to go number 2 and told the guys I'd be right back. For some reason, when I told them, they looked at each other with an odd expression. I thought it was weird by the way they looked at each other, but then who knows? Maybe they were just worried that riding up these switchbacks had literally scared the shit out of me. LOL. I did my business, and then off we went riding through the hills all day. That evening after dinner, we were all inside the cabin talking, and the conversation got onto the Sasquatch topic. I don't recall who brought it up, but I do remember that at one point, Rob asked me what I thought about the topic. I told him that I was skeptical of their existence, since I had never seen any decent photos or a video of them. And I remembered clearly then that he asked me this: what about all the people who stated they had seen these things? At the time, I didn't really comprehend what he was asking me. I know I just replied to him saying something about no real proof, blah, blah, blah. And that was the end of that topic that night. I realize now, after watching your video, Steve, that he was really asking me, Neil, why don't you believe in the testimony of your fellow man? And the way in which he asked me, not only was he asking me that question, but also stating that he in fact does believe in his fellow man, without the need for material proof. Alas, that it went right over my head back then, and now when I think back, I just feel like a fool. It makes me wonder also if he was testing the water with me. Maybe he had experiences of his own that he wanted to share. If so, I blew it big time. My gut tells me I missed out on some truth. I have to wonder if I should try to reach out to him. I want to ask him if he was trying to tell me something, but I don't know if I should. It's so long ago now, he may not even remember me. Anyways, I'll finish off by saying thank you, Steve. Thank you for speaking so forthright about your thoughts on this topic and other issues, and encouraging everyone to trust each other. It's just such a breath of fresh air. Take care and all the best, Neil. Neil, thanks for that, man. I'd say from the way he was delivering it to you, he probably nailed it on the head. He was probably getting ready to open up to you with what they knew was around there, what they've seen on Stretcher Road. I do the same thing. That's exactly what I do to people. Hey, you ever had anything weird happen or whatever? Then you read their body language, you see their eyes and everything too. People, eyes don't lie. And the eyes will tell you whether it's a waste of time to pursue the topic with this individual or not. That's what he was doing with you, for sure. Who knows, if you got his email, why don't you, people that know of these things and seen these things, it doesn't matter how many years ago it was, it is etched in your frickin' eyes and ears, your brain, crystal clear, non-stop for life, right? So, that being said, your friend, I bet if you could possibly email this particular video to your friend, and then I would imagine they would probably contact you right away and spill. Big time. That's my guess. But anyway, I think I'm going to have to put on some dry clothes, wear my clothes, get the quad out of the truck, and if I go around that corner, I think a mile and a bit, then up in the corner near the timber, and the mountains are right over here. You can't see any mountains that way, but they're right here behind us, the big mountains. That's where my friend has his bone pile from winter kill of his cattle and bison, etc. And I'm going to set a couple trail cameras on a trail to it in the timber and leave them there so that I can get crazy ass awesome footage of monster grizzly bears coming in there to feed off that bone pile, which I think will be absolutely interesting, and I'll share them with all of you too. So that's one of my to-dos while I'm up here. Anyway, I shall be back again. Alright, so it's absolute hell outside. It's snowing and it's raining and it's mucky and gross and disgusting. So just got back, got the fire going, and you guys can watch the fire with me while I share some voices, because I don't have much else I can do. Alright, listen to this. Hey Steve, I hope all is well with you and yours. My name is Cody. You can say my name if you want. I've watched your channel for a while now, and I've been able to put some puzzle pieces together. Thank you. Now, hold on, that thing's a little loud and a little warm. That's a little better. My first encounter happened when I was bow hunting for elk in mid-September with a friend of mine east of Lincoln, Montana, near the Continental Divide. I was solo hunting and scouting around, waiting for my friend to arrive, when I found some elk wallows in the next valley over where I was camping and had made a brush blind. From where I was camping and had made a brush blind. The next afternoon, as my friend showed up, we headed over to Wallows, as it was a fairly warm day, and thought we might catch a bull rolling around in the mud. As we crossed the saddle going into the valley, there was a slight breeze from the west. I turned to my friend and asked, "Do you smell that?" He said he did. It kind of smelled like a rutting bull, but a little different. We both agreed that it must be elk heading to the Wallows, and we quickly made our way to the brush blind. We had just settled in when we hear what sounded like someone trying to use an elk bugle for the first time. The shitty sounding bugle was coming from the saddle we just left. We both thought it was a novice hunter until it sounded off again, but this time on top of the mountain peak above the saddle to the east. There's no way a hunter could have covered that much distance in such a short time. The shitty sounding bugle was going from the peak on the east side of the saddle to the peak on the west side of the saddle, making that bugling sound as it went. Then we thought it was a young bull elk trying to figure out how to bugle. So my friend starts recording it with his phone. This went on for a good 10 minutes. My friend's dad had been a guide for big game in Idaho for over 20 years. I figured he would know what it was. After hearing the recording, he said he'd never heard anything like that. My second encounter scared the shit out of me. And I don't scare easily, as I'm just over 6 foot and weighing 310 pounds. And my dad was a boxing coach, so I had boxing gloves on when I was in diapers. It took me over 20 years to tell this story because it affected me so much. I was night fishing for walleye at Lake Elwell. The locals called it Tiber Reservoir, when I had the feeling I wasn't alone and I was being watched. All I had for light was a Coleman lantern, and I held it up and shined it around, not seeing anything, but I knew I wasn't alone. Feeling uneasy, I walked over to my vehicle and sat inside with the windows part way down. That's when I started hearing voices, but I can't understand what they were saying. So I hopped out and asked who was there. No response. And not seeing anyone, I hopped back in. That's when I heard a loud splash in the water. It sounded more like a ka-whoosh sound, like something very heavy hitting the water. Again, I hopped out looking into the darkness with my little lantern, and I hear the ka-whoosh again. And then I see it. A huge boulder flying from the hilltop above me, and it hits the water about 20 feet away. That's when I heard a voice in my head say, "Leave now." I reeled up my pole so fast I thought I was going to burn the bearings out. I didn't say anything to anyone about this for 20 years because I didn't think anyone would believe me. And what bothered me the most was, whose voice in my head did I hear? Because it sure as hell wasn't mine. When I started watching your channel, I heard you read an email talking about mind speak, and a big puzzle piece, for me, finally made sense. I can't thank you enough for providing this platform for those of us who have missing puzzle pieces. Hopefully you and your countrymen will get rid of that dickhead dictator who's in office. Our retard isn't any better. And once again, travel freely across the border. If you find yourself in eastern Montana in mid-May, I'll take you paddle fishing, grill you up some steak, and give you a place to rest your head. God bless you. I came in, appreciate it. Got your contact and note taken. And thanks again for the share and the invite. And I'm glad you got some closure for that, or at least a little bit of comfort in a way, I guess, because you've heard this dozens and dozens of times here now, right? And the mind speak thing, again, I haven't had it happen to me, but it is kind of amazing how it's in English when it's delivered to English people, right? I'd be interested to hear from other people in other countries who've had the same thing happen but spoken to in their language, obviously, right? And that's a big question mark. Well, if they can put English words into our head, what's going on? How come they don't speak English out loud with their mouth to us? Actually, I've heard somebody say that they are built differently and they cannot create language the same way we can with the mouths. I've heard that, but that's quite a statement to make, right, for anybody. All right, what else have we got? It's another one. There's so many, it's redunculous. An old encounter and a request. Hey Steve, if you're reading this, then thank you. You can call me by my first name, Ken. I've been sharing your videos with my older brother, and in the course of doing so, he recalled an event that he had apparently buried in his mind and had totally forgotten about. We grew up in a small town in upstate New York, Columbia County. Across from our house was a large hill called Tom's Hill. where the neighborhood kids would go to explore, play, build fires, and so forth. It's wooded and extends for miles. So my brother recalls this would have been in the late 40s or so. I remember when I was really little, I think 5 years old or so. There was some strange activity up on Tom's Hill. It was late afternoon or early evening. And there was this loud crying / screaming from the hill. I thought it was a baby crying, but it was too loud for that, and it did not sound human. It went on, and it was kind of scary. Before too long, there was a crowd of people standing along the road trying to figure out what it was. After a while, a group of neighborhood heroes went up the hill with their hunting rifles. I was quickly ushered into the house and probably planted in front of the TV. I don't remember if they found out what it was, but I seem to remember that they claimed it was a bobcat. As you would say, Steve, I think you know what it was. I've never had an encounter with Sabbath myself, but I've been digging into this topic for some time now. My request to you would be for you to please ask Edgar, Owlman, and others who claim to mind speak with the Sabbath the following questions. Number 1, what are the tree structures for? Number 2, what do the tree breaks indicate, and how can we interpret them? Number 3, what do the other pathway markers and X's mean? Number 4, and as intelligent as these beings are, they must certainly be intrigued by fire. There was one letter you read, Steve, which described how a Sabbath would enter a campsite at night and warm itself by the fire. So why is it that the Sabbath do not use fire themselves? What is the concern regarding radiation? Why was it recommended to you that you carry a Geiger counter? You're the perfect person to be doing this work, Steve, and we are with you. We're all lied to about virtually everything, and it is nauseating. I look forward to each video you put up. Please, if I can be of help to you in any way, feel free to reach out. Stay safe up there in the People's Republic of Canada, Cannon, Wisconsin. Yeah, thanks, Ken. I'll tell you what, it's the bullshit going on up here is definitely challenging, but I think I may have just been enlightened on how I can freely, legally cross the border. So I might be doing that soon. Yeah, the question's being answered. I'm sure they will get knocked off one by one on this channel eventually. Quick note, I forgot to mention too, Cody with the elk hunting encounter. Hey, if your friend still has that recording, I'll guarantee you the audience here is probably screaming, Where's the recording? All right. So Cody, if he still has it, maybe if you want to share it with the people anyway, send it my way, and I will get it shared with them. All right. I'd be interested to hear that too. But it's interesting because we've all heard numerous bull elk that don't sound like elk at all, right? It's kind of comical in a way because of how many people actually feel insecure about their bugling when they're out elk hunting. I try to tell them all, hey, listen, man, elk are the worst sounding elk buglers on the planet themselves, right? But anyway, yeah, if you want to send that in, if he still has that recording on his phone, give her. All right, here's another one. My encounters and celebrity biologist. Okay, here we go. Hi, Steve. Celebrity biologist reminds me of celebrity doctor. Example, Dr. Phil. Crazy stuff for sure. I'm 64 years old, and I've been big game hunting since I was 9 years old. Had my first experience with a Sasquatch when I was bow hunting elk just to the north of Mount Rainier in Washington State. I was about 30 years old at the time. I'd hiked into an area to the southeast of Government Meadows, about 3 miles from my truck. And I was alone, but I often hunted alone, either with high-power muzzleloader or a bow. This particular season, I was bow hunting for elk. I had found a herd of elk with one nice bull and some smaller bulls in the herd too, probably about 30 head or so in total. It was early in the morning, and I had been following them in an attempt to see them lay down, as they often do, for several hours, giving me time to sneak in and harvest one of them. I've been following them in big timber on the north-facing slope, and eventually they broke over a downslope hill side into an area that had been logged off and replanted with trees. Most of the new trees are about 10 to 12 feet tall and spaced far enough apart to afford good visibility between them. By the time I got to the upper edge of the downhill slope, I'm sure they were beyond my visibility, but I sneaked to the edge and looked down slope looking for elk. I was looking for brown fur, and did see brown fur about 65 yards underneath me, and I put the binoculars on it to see better. Well, what I saw was a huge Sasquatch standing behind a fallen tree, and I could see it from its belly to the top of its head. It was looking directly at me. We watched each other for a full 5 minutes. Oh my God, that would be like 50 lifetimes. I could see its face very clearly. Its eyes glistened from the sunlight. About 11:30 a.m. in the morning, clear blue skies. I could see the hair on his head moving from the slight breeze coming down the valley. There was little doubt that it was a male, and I must say he was handsome. Peaceful look on his face, but it was huge. I'm guessing, but I'm sure it was 10 feet tall, just as tall as the 10-foot trees on that entire slope. I took note of its massive shoulders, neck, and muscles. He never moved. He just stared at me. Well, that totally effed up my elk hunt. There was no way I was going to continue trailing that elk herd since he was between me and the elk. My arm was getting tired holding the binoculars in one hand and bow in the other, so I took note exactly where he was and bent over to lay the bow down. I looked back, and he was gone. Very uneasy feeling. I calmly backed off that ridge and hiked back to my truck, which is a full 3 miles away. I did have a 9mm pistol with me, but knew if he wanted me, the 9mm would have little stopping power. Some of the brush getting out was super thick, and every time I had to crawl under trees and brush, I dreaded him grabbing me. I made it to my truck and split. My guess is he was way bigger in weight than a full-grown bull elk, probably 900 to 1,000 pounds. The biggest elk I'd killed was a mature bull, and it weighed 410 pounds in quarters, skinned out, and that animal was as big as a large horse. That male Sasquatch was huge. I still kept hunting after that, but had other experiences while hunting around Cle Elum, Washington, that made me rethink bow hunting. The second experience I had with Sasquatch was when I was about 43 years old. I was fishing for summer steelhead at Icy Creek in the Green River in King County, Washington State, very close to my home, about 2 miles or so. That particular summer, the summer run steelhead were thick in the river. In fact, there were several years that summer run steelhead fishing was very good. I could get off work at 2:30 p.m., drive to my home, load up my gear and bait, and then drive to the river and hike about a mile or so to the river behind a lock gate and hike and fish along the river. What was really nice is nobody was there. Many evenings I landed 9 to 12 fish between 4:30 p.m. and dark. Oh my God, that'd be a hoot. I was young and tough back then. So this one evening, I hooked about 9 fish. I landed probably 6 of them. I retained my 2 fish limit, a hatchery fish, about 10 to 11 pounds each. I fished until dark at the hole closest to the hike-out location. Good thing was, there was a full moon that night and clear skies. I had a .357 mag on me and started up the steep road to the gate where my truck was at. The gravel road hike is in steep and deep timber until you break out at the top where the gravel road flattens out. But still timber on both sides all the way to the gate where my truck was. Right before I reached the top of the steep gravel road, I heard something very large in the timber to my right side. At first I thought it was elk, but I kept hearing the noise of something walking in the timber and brush that was heavier than an elk, and it was obvious it was 2-legged. I never saw it because it was too dark. It followed me all the way to my truck, and I'm sure it was only 50 feet from me. Every once in a while it would stomp on a fallen 5 or 6 inch diameter fallen tree and break it with such a force that I could feel the vibration in my feet. Oh my God, that would suck. I put both steelhead in my left hand fingers and fishing rod too, and pulled out my .357 mag, and I talked to it all the way out to my truck. As I knew what it was. It was all alone and it was trying to scare the shit out of me. And I will admit, I was very uneasy. But I just kept talking to it, telling it I don't want any trouble and leave me alone. It followed me a good 700 yards. Sure was glad to get to my truck. When I got to my truck, it stopped within the cover of the brush and the trees. I got the fish into the fish box and rod onto the canopy of the truck. And I never let go of my .357 mag. I stood there for several minutes and said, "Hey, are you still there?" About 30 seconds later, it crashed through the brush directly to the west of me. It sounded like a bull moose in size. So I left and told my wife about it when I got home. She believed me because she knows I'm a no-nonsense guy. The third experience I had with Sasquatch was about a week later on the Green River at Icy Creek, at the same place as my second experience. I got to the river a little late in the morning, about 10 a.m. or so. I already had one nice chromer on the bank, about 10 pounds. Here I was, standing up to my waist in water, fishing a super good hole, and I hear behind me a bear literally bawling at the top of its lungs and crashing through the brush directly at me. I know you said you have never heard a bear bawl and that you have heard them breathing hard when they're running from something, but this bear was absolutely in panic mode. I pulled up my .357 mag and aimed it at the edge of the timber. Out comes this fully grown black bear, about 400 pounds, running directly at me. And I swear to God, that bear was so lucky I didn't plug him. The instant he saw me, it diverted away from me at an angle and missed me by about 30 feet and jumped in the river and swam to the other side, about 35 yards, and ran up the other side without shaking off the water. He just kept bawling and disappeared into the timber on the opposite bank. Now, believe me, I've been hunting for too long to not still be aiming my .357 mag at the timber edge that this bear burst out of. But nothing came out of the timber. We have 0 grizzly bears here. What in the heck could have terrified a fully grown black bear other than a Sasquatch? With my previous week's second experience while walking out at night, I have no doubt Sasquatch lives there. I did keep fishing that section of the river for years and was never scared to fish alone. Oh man, good for you. I've had that horrible feeling of fear and almost panic feeling for no reason while hunting alone in deep timber to the southwest of Mount Rainier while elk hunting. I had a 300 Winchester mag with me too. Believe me, I'm an assassin with that 300 mag, but for whatever reason, I have had to exit the timber several times because of unknown cause of this horrible feeling. It is like this. Everything gets very quiet and no wind blows and I can't smell a damn thing. The silence is deafening and my gut feeling is on fire. Safety off and 360 monitoring and slow all the way out of there. No doubt. I've seen orbs one time years ago while alone up a 4-wheel drive road to the north of North Bend, Washington. I arrived at camp first up a nasty 4-wheel drive road. I was alone and expected my friend and his father to meet me the next day for blacktail hunting. At night I was alone and the fire had gone out. I was sitting on the tailgate of my Jeep 4000 Gladiator pickup, just looking at the nice stars, when a dull green orb came over the top of the mountain and dropped down into the valley below me. Wow. Then went up over the top of the opposite mountain and disappeared. I have not an explanation other than that. Super wild. The last odd thing I'll tell you, and something I gleaned from Scott Carpenter's videos, is that he says oftentimes Sasquatch will follow you home. That may be true, and I will tell you, we had some pretty good sized healthy branches get broken off 12 to 14 feet off the ground around our home. These branches were about 4 to 5 inches in diameter. We live in a somewhat remote foothill area of the Cascade Mountains, very close to that Icy Creek Green River situations I discussed above. We often have a herd of elk and often deer in our backyard. We even had a mother cougar and her cub visit our backyard. One day after we had discovered about 7 broken healthy branches broke off high up in the tree, and mind you, I checked for bear claw evidence on the tree trunk and there was no claw marks. But I was setting mole traps in our backyard. Our backyard looks like a park, and I know how to trap moles with something called the gopher hawk. Best invention ever. So here I was, setting a trap in the backyard about 12 noon, and it was a clear, beautiful summer day and no wind. I was under a canopy of maples at the edge of a backyard, kneeling down, and I get this message in my head. Hey, why are you hurting those ground animals? Without thinking, I verbally responded, because these zephyrs are messing up my yard. All of a sudden, I hear a branch snap right above my head, and I get whacked across the top of my head hard enough it staggered me, and I fell over to my side onto the grass. It hurt bad. I stood up expecting to see a person with a branch in hand, but nothing. My wife saw the entire thing happen from our second-story deck and said, "Are you okay?" I asked her who hit me. She said, "The branch is just broke and hit me." No way, man. That was a healthy branch with green leaves on it, and I have no explanation for that other than it happened. Maybe another email will tell you about all the UFOs my hunting buddies have seen up in the wilderness while hunting for years. I know for an absolute fact our aerospace companies are actively involved in UFO engineering. I recently retired as a 34-year aerospace engineer. Steve, I and all of us appreciate your channel and what you do. Be safe out there, and you can use my name. Thanks, Dan Carroll. Dan, it's one hell of a story, man. And getting bonked in the head is a little alarming. And the aerospace thing, with your direct knowledge, I'd appreciate if you emailed us back with what you know about that, especially if it can help out some people, or help some people that have seen something screwed up in the sky, right? And another thing I wouldn't mind saying on that note is another elk hunter. More elk hunting, right? I mean, when's it gonna stop? It's not gonna stop, but the elk hunting and Sasquatch combo, Dave Plias has noted, we've talked about it, we've noted it. It's so common, it's ridiculous, is it not? Elk hunters and sightings of these beings. I think that's why I was a little bit shook to my core last evening when I was broken down back in the middle of nowhere, because I was in deep, never logged before timber, and I was specifically targeting elk with my salt licks and my cameras, and there's elk sign all over the place, and it just, you can't help but take notice of that combo, right? It's like, okay, here I go, I'm going into elk zone, there's going to be other elk predators here potentially, and then there it is, a little nest egg in the back of your bean while you're trying to hike around and focus on what you're doing and have fun, but you can't shake it. You never will be able to shake it, especially after seeing them, right? But anyways, my friend's back. I'm gonna go up over the other barn, see what they're doing. I'm kind of warm sitting this close to the fire all this time. And I will be back shortly with more. I guess as long as I'm snowed and rained in here, I'm just gonna keep getting as many of these emails shared as I can. Get caught up. So was everything piled up earlier?
Yeah.
Here, there's some tracks in the snow maybe.
Everything's piled up right here. I'm just
And you're chopping wolves here?
No, I didn't set a single snare around this big pile.
Really? Oh, there's a Highland cow head. So you got a good trail here, eh?
Yeah.
Put the camera on it maybe?
This bait pile here is probably 10 years old now.
Really?
Yeah. I put bait here all year round.
I'll bet you some prints in that mud right down there.
Yeah, there's bear tracks.
Oh yeah, that's a big grizzly. For sure.
See some right in his back.
Oh, he was just here. Those are fresh, eh?
He was literally just here.
Well, he's probably right. He can hear us right now, probably.
Let's see what way the tracks are going. They're coming in.
Oh, so he's off to our left right now.
He's over here.
Yeah. That's a big bear. How fresh?
They're not that fresh. They're pretty sticky yet.
Are they?
Yeah.
All right, I'll go down there.
So it can't be too fresh because there's water all over the prints already.
Okay, we'll get ready to shoot him off of me.
I'm back here.
Back me up.
Oh, there's a bear back here.
Yeah. Well, we'll get him on video for sure.
Not the biggest one. I've seen a lot bigger.
Yeah, there's some. I've seen some way bigger.
Freaking ones that have longer feet
Yeah.
than these boots.
Yeah.
This is a younger one.
He hasn't been here too much. It looks like he only came in once.
Yeah, ripped around that crap there. See, I would put that video camera on that post there. Or I put two.
Well, when all this grass grows up, it's going to trigger the camera in the wind.
Yeah.
So this should stay muddy down here, right?
I put one right here because it's always coming from the top.
Okay.
These tracks coming down. In.
All right.
Oh, wolf track right there.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, maybe we'll put it right on this pole.
Yeah. Just stick it this way.
Okay.